Now, let me just say this first. This is my very first Path of Exile game, and so this build is still improving, and I was very lucky on an Astramantis Stellar Amulet gamble that I did in the last video, so I've been researching how to make this work, and I think I've come up with a pretty good setup. Now, this build isn't perfect, but it's extremely lazy, which I love, and it barely ever dies, because it has about 7,000 effective HP pull with capped resistances on everything. This build will work without an Astramantis, but you would have to weapon swap and gem swap to achieve this, and this is particularly only for bosses slash pinnacle bosses. You could probably clear normal bosses with it normally, but for pinnacle bosses you would definitely want to weapon swap to get more damage out of it. And this will be in the link in the description. It'll just be on the second tab of the skill set. All you're basically doing is using a very specific corrupted bow which shoots 3 times normally, and you corrupt it to shoot 4 times. You add attack speed onto this, and you basically just use cast on shock ball lightning with a lightning rod, and it just instantly melts bosses. I think that might get nerfed, but who knows what the Path of Exile devs are up to. Now, if you're going to run Black Suncrest, Wrapped Great Helm, and Spaghettification, I would highly recommend against this because your light radius becomes so small that if you kill anything off screen, you can't see it drop on the minimap, and for mapping, you can't see where you're going or where dead ends are any easier, so you end up backtracking so much more. For the equipment part, I'm not going to spend too long on this. I'm sure all of you have seen Pillar of the Cage cards with Hands of Wisdom in action. The best in slot warriors would definitely be all attributes and all resist, and it means you can free up something like your ring slot to stop having to use Ellie resistances. Honestly, with your amulet, you probably want something along the lines of Storm Charge. There are a few other good options, but I would avoid Spaghettification because of the light radius decrease, especially if you're going to be running Black Suncrest helmet. Like, in all honesty, it is a good helmet, but it definitely isn't the best helmet because of the light radius. And I never thought I'd ever say this, but the amount of backtracking and extra time lost I've had instead of killing mobs like 0.1% faster is insane. Light radius is very strong. And this only adds about 60,000 damage, so maybe about 25% extra DPS. And it really doesn't change our tankiness at all. We go down, what, 47 life and 10 mana? 9 mana? For our passive tree, we're going to be taking Enhanced Effectiveness. This is definitely a must because we're an attribute stacker. For the second thing, it just depends on what you really need. I like 30% less cost of skills just as a quality of life type of thing, so I don't need to pick up more mana things on my in my skill tree. You could also take +1 level in all skills if you would really like, just for the extra DPS if you have mana covered. The main important thing in our build is going to be this Against the Darkness Time Lost Diamond. This just helps with all of our resistances because it is very hard to cap out resistances without Chaos Inoculation. We're also going to be taking Sand in the Eyes, and you don't need to take this one if your resistances are capped because this definitely isn't the best in slot. It only adds about 10,000 damage, 10,000 DPS for me, and that's what, maybe 6% of my DPS increase. There are definitely better nodes. The second most important thing is going to be this Controlled Metamorphosis Diamond. You can pick this up, I think, for about 4 div if you're lucky. You just need to keep on refreshing and changing your parameters. I think I picked this up for about 4 div. And it just adds a giant donut in our passive tree so we can pick up certain nodes without actually connecting to them. This does save us a whole lot of skill points. The last important thing is Mind Over Matter. This just effectively makes our mana pool into our HP pool. And so we have 7,000 HP right now. For all these things, you technically don't need everything that I have here. These are quality of life type of things, like you can definitely swap out mental toughness and maybe even pick up more attack speed nodes. Falcon Dive is very good for us, mostly just because with all the decks we're stacking, we have a whole bunch of accuracy. Now, for your jewels, you're mostly going to want resistances. That will be your main priority. I like these emerald jewels because you can get lightning damage, elemental damage, attack damage, and attack speed, and then attack speed on quarterstaffs for the best in slots. You can also run crit if you would really like, but at the same time, more attack speed equals more movement speed for us, so I go with this. The other type of jewel you're going to want is a percent mana on kill jewel. This would be a sapphire, so the best in slot would probably be mana on kill, maybe cold resist maximums, or mana regen maybe, and elemental damage, because you can get elemental damage on everything. And for a quality of life type of thing, Rage on hit is very nice to have. Having one or two of these means your damage is quickly going to increase by 30%. We do have Rage on one of our bells, so this isn't absolutely necessary, but it is just nice to look at all your damage numbers going up. So a couple of the side note things just real quick. You can remove Herald of Thunder and Herald of Ice if you would really like. If you do this, I would recommend removing Concentrated Effect, just so you have more clear, easier. I personally mostly only put this there just so I can look at the DPS increase that it has. It's, I think, the biggest flat increase. And it doesn't really affect your clear speed too much because of Charged Staff. If you were to remove these two, you can put in Blink. And alright, yeah, the biggest part of why I don't like Chaos Inoculation is because of this Omen. I think this is absolutely busted. If you're about to die and you reach low life, instead of getting a one shot immediately, you're full HP, full mana, full energy shield. This has definitely saved me more than once, and I would highly recommend this.